Thank you everyone for joining today. Before we get started, I would like to remind everyone of the following. Each participant has been muted on entry and will remain on mute throughout the webinar. However, if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. We will have time to address any questions at the end of the webinar. While we will review the chat, our primary focus during the question and answer portion will be the Q&A pod. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded. The recording, along with a copy of the slides, will be posted to the CSBG webinars page found through the link posted in the chat.
Thank you, Nikki. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. Welcome to the fiscal year 2023 CSBG Annual Report webinar series, where today we're going to cover Module 1. My name is Minette Galindo, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Policy, Data, and Evaluation Branch Chief for the Division of Community Assistance here within the Office of Community Services, where we administer the Community Services Block Grant. Next slide. And to jump us off today, I'm going to introduce you to your presenters. Joining us from the Policy Data and Evaluation Branch is Melanie Durley, our Program Evaluator, Lena Kotin-Chan, our Data Analyst, Kayla Lennon, our Community Services Program Specialist, and from our Financial Operations and Accountability Branch, Norris Phillip, our Financial Analyst. I'm now going to turn it over to Melanie Durley to provide an overview of today's webinar. Melanie?
Thank you, Minette. Today we will be providing a review of the reporting requirements, an overview and detailed explanation of Module 1, and then we'll wrap up by sharing resources to help you with your reporting. So I will now turn it over to Kayla to discuss reporting requirements.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Melanie. As mentioned earlier, we will first discuss reporting requirements and why we report. Some of this should serve as a refresher if you were able to attend some of our earlier webinars this year, but of course, we want to make sure that we review them again. Here it is. The CSBG Act, Section 678E outlines the requirements of the CSBG Act, including the requirement to submit annually, provide a measured performance of the state or sections B, D, G, H, and I, and an account of the expenditures of funds, including administrative cost or Section E, and a description of training and technical assistance offered by the state or Section F. Next slide. The fiscal year 2023 CSBG annual report is due on March 31st, 2024. I think we went forward. There we go. To ensure a complete submission, states are expected to submit CSBG regular annual report and CARES annual report together. Grant recipients should already be familiar with the integrated strategy OCS is using to collect the information for the annual report. However, we do understand that there are some new administrators and this may be the first time, so we do suggest that you refer to our CSBG Action Transmittal 2024-01, the submission of the fiscal year 2023 CSBG annual reports, and that link is going to be dropped in the chat. And don't hesitate to reach out to your evaluation and program specialists if you have any questions and need help. And we will provide the contact information at the end of this webinar. We can move to the next slide. Just to reemphasize why we report, this is truly a shared responsibility across the network at the federal, state, local, and national levels. It is very important to work with your internal and external colleagues when completing Module 1. While in the CSBG state plan, you report your plan for your next year, then Module 1 gives you the opportunity to show how effective you were in implementing those plans. OCS uses this information to then show stakeholders and agencies' efficiency, effectiveness, and overall financial condition, as well as to inform future training and technical assistance. There's been increased conversations in outcomes management, performance management, and evidence-based practices. These are becoming the gold standard in the public sector, and we want to make sure that we are staying up to date with these standards to show just how much CSBG matters to the fight against poverty. Next slide. As a reminder, most states have already submitted their final CARES report and fiscal year 2022 report. This is the final year of CARES reporting for states that operate on the state fiscal year and the small states, as outlined by the minimum maximum allotment provision. So this doesn't apply to everyone. Next slide. And please note that March 31st falls on a Sunday, and OCS will observe Monday, April 1st at 11:50 p.m. ET as the adjusted due date for the annual report through the Online Data Collection System, or OLDC. I'll now turn it to my colleague Lena to provide an overview of the reporting strategies for Module 1. Lena?
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Kayla. So let's dive into Module 1 overview. Next slide. This overview may look familiar to you. As we discuss additional targeted TTA, there will be dedicated webinars to unpack each of these critical steps. So today's webinar is focused on submitting the data to OCS. That is this green icon right in the middle of the timeline. Next slide. So now let's discuss Module 1 reporting strategy. For regular CSBG annual reports, states will report as normal, including all funding sources. For CSBG CARES, states will report using a simplified version of Module 1, focusing on CSBG CARES supplemental, including allocations to eligible entities, state usage of CARES supplemental funds, and lessons learned. Next slide. So Module 1 is a way to communicate information on state CSBG administration. All grant recipients should report Module 1 on federal fiscal year, which runs from October 1st to September 30th. Please note that regular CSBG has 9 sections A through I. However, CSBG CARES is a bit simplified and has 6 sections. In CSBG CARES, you will report it in sections A, B, E, F, G, and H. When you're reporting for your CARES, we're looking for how you use CARES to complement or extend your regular CSBG funds. So you should not just report the same things you're reporting in your regular CSBG annual report. We're looking to see how you may have done something a little different or extended the use of funds. So for the statewide goals and accomplishments, we're looking specifically for those CARES statewide goals and accomplishments in your CARES supplemental annual report. Do not forget that regular CSBG includes information for both CSBG and CARES, if you're one of those states that are still reporting on CARES. Next slide. And this animation just shows that the correlation between the regular CSBG and CARES. So you see how some of the sections are missing from CARES. So please keep an eye on that. Next slide. So lastly, another reminder here. Some sections in CSBG annual report are pre-populated from CSBG state plan. If you had a 2-year plan that you submitted in fiscal year 2022, the second year will pre-populate the CSBG annual report. If you had a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan that you submitted in fiscal year 2023, the year on data will pre-populate CSBG annual report. For the CARES state plan will pre-populate some sections of the CARES annual report. So now I will turn it back to Melanie and Norris to do a deeper dive into all sections of Module 1.
Thank you, Lena. So let's delve into Module 1 a little deeper. Next slide. But first, a few things to consider as you fill out your annual report. When looking at your report, consult with various departments, such as your fiscal team or other departments, to include them and request input from them regarding achievements over the past year. This will ensure that you have a comprehensive view and report out to OCS. Also consider feedback from other sources, such as the ACSI survey results, feedback from OCS on prior reports, and other input from your eligible entities. Consider performance improvement. Considering ways to improve year upon year at the state and local levels assures accountability and outcomes. Sometimes there may be differences from year to year, so please double check your prior years or red flags from prior years that may have come up. We do review your prior year's report as well and your respective state plans to see how the information aligns, and we will likely ask questions if we see inconsistencies. And then final check. Please do one last review before hitting the submit button. Please ensure all sections are addressed, look for consistency, and provide unique responses to the respective fiscal year. And lastly, make sure your plans are up to date. If you had a de-designation or changed your CARES Act budgeting, please make sure your plans reflect those changes so you're reporting out in a consistent manner. Next slide. So now let's look at each sections one by one, starting with section A, state administration. For this section, this should only be updated if there has been a change in the state plan. There were some changes made to this section from last year. Specifically, A1C and A1D were revised to match the language in the CSBG state plan. A1 largely deals with the lead agency contact information, and in A1D, please be sure to include the authorizing official's name and contact info and not that of the CSBG state point of contact. For A.2 is where you would select any additional programs that were administered by the lead agency during the reporting year. This year's Social Services Block Grant and the Department of Labor were added as options. Next slide. Section B, statewide goals and accomplishments. For B1 progress and state plan goals, this item language was changed for clarity. Here you will identify if all goals were accomplished, if goals were partially accomplished or not accomplished. We're looking for any progress on your state goals. It's great if all goals are completed and accomplished. However, it's understandable if all goals are not accomplished. Please provide an explanation if that is the case. We're looking for continuous improvement across all of the network and want to hear about your lessons learned. A further reference point for this, you can review IM 144 on the state and federal accountability measures. For B2, eligible entity overall satisfaction targets. This section applies to the American Customer Satisfaction Index, or the ACSI survey results that are typically conducted every couple of years. This is an opportunity for eligible entities to provide feedback on the work taking place at the state office. When completing this table, please note that the future targets should not be less than the current targets. Response to these items allow OCS to assess whether or how states' response to feedback from ACSI improves customer satisfaction among eligible entities. Encouraging higher targets over time should allow states to take a continuous improvement approach towards increasing customer satisfaction. Please see IM 150 for further background on the ACSI survey and the use of this tool as a way to improve network effectiveness. B3, eligible entity feedback and involvement. Please provide a clear description on how the state has implemented changes based on feedback from the network or from other sources such as OCS or the ACSI survey. OCS uses this information to learn more about how the state responds to the needs of local communities. You can see the CSBG Act section 676A3 for further background, but this does tie back to some of the considerations I mentioned previously to include feedback from your eligible entities. B4, state management accomplishments. Please share top management accomplishments achieved by the CSBG state office over the past fiscal year. This is the time to brag about yourselves. We hope you also take the chance to celebrate your successes with your team. OCS would like for states to reflect on the past year, celebrate successes achieved along the way. Some states may not typically take this approach or see the effect of their management, leadership, and results on the efficiency of or quality of their work. OCS hopes that states will take the opportunity to reflect on their work and set new management goals for the coming year. B5, eligible entity management accomplishments. Please allow your network to use this chance to also brag about their work. Please provide specific examples. With this question, OCS is encouraging states and eligible entities to take a performance management approach to their work. Incorporating effective management and leadership skills can help improve internal processes, services provided, and strategies for serving individuals and families. And lastly, B6, innovative solution highlights. This is your chance to highlight innovative solutions across your network. With this item, OCS is encouraging states and eligible entities to stay current on the available research describing innovative solutions, incorporating research into your program design, and in turn having a greater positive impact on individuals, families, and communities. This question allows the state and eligible entity to keep their focus on the end goal of CSBG to address the causes and conditions of poverty in communities. Next slide. So now we're going to section C, eligible entity update. This section is regarding any updates to your eligible entities. This item was revised to correlate and align with the language in the state plan. So in this section, you'll click yes, no, designated or redesignated de-designated, or voluntarily relinquished or merged regarding any changes to your eligible entities. If there has been a change, please also provide a short narrative of these changes. Keeping us at OCS apprised of any changes allows us to work together with you to make sure all our counties are continuing to be served. Next slide. Section D, organizational standards for eligible entities. This section was revised for clarity to align with the state plan. There were also options updated to match and align with the state plan. Item D1A was revised for clarity. With D1A, you will review and update how your state assessed eligible entities against organizational standards. And D1B, you will provide narrative of that assessment process. You can see IM 138 for more information on organizational standards. Looking at item D2, organizational standards performance, is where you provide information regarding the percentage of eligible entities that met all state adopted organizational standards in the reporting period. This item was revised for technology and now has an option for exempt eligible entities. There are 3 tables in this section. In the first table, the total number of entities assessed requests information on the number of eligible entities within the state or territory that were eligible for assessment during the reporting period. And then of that number, how many of the eligible entities were actually assessed. The OCS encourages CSBG grant recipients to assess all eligible entities annually. It's understandable that this may not be possible. The second table, target versus actual performance of organizational standards, requests the number of eligible entities assessed that met 100% of the standards as compared to the target set in your state plan. The third table, progress indicators, requests the progress made by eligible entities that did not meet 100% of the organizational standards. You will indicate here how many entities met 100%, between 90 and 99%, 80, 89% of standards, 70 to 79% of standards, and then less than 69% of the standards. Include each entity only once. For item D2B, as to the percentage meeting of the organizational standards by category, language was removed and revised for technology. For D3, technical assistance plans for unmet organizational standards, language about QUIPs were removed, and this item provides OCS with the latest information on TAPs that may be taking place for some entities in regards to organizational standards. I will now hand it off to Norris to review Section E, state use of funds.
Thank you, Melanie. The reporting period of the FY23 annual report for CSBG regular and CARES is October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023. There are 2 separate reports to be submitted, and I want to clarify what information is to be completed in Section E of each report. When reporting in Section E of the regular CSBG annual report, we want you to just include the 90% pass-through, the state administrative funds.
I'm sorry, Norris, we're getting a comment. Can you speak up?
Sure. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I want to share my screen. In Section E, let's see where. I'll repeat again. When reporting in Section E of the regular CSBG annual report, we want you to include the 90% pass-through, the state administrative funds, and the discretionary amount. For the CARES annual report, the information in Section E is to include CARES-only funds. And now I'll discuss the specifics in Section E. Next slide, please. In Section E2, OCS collects data on planned and actual allocations and obligations of CSBG funds to ensure transparent distribution of eligible entities in accordance with Section 675C(a) of the CSBG Act and IM 37. By comparing the allocated funds against the obligated amount for each fiscal year, OCS verifies that 90% of the CSBG funds are utilized as intended. Carryover, administrative, and remainder or discretionary should be excluded from Section E2. This information helps OCS monitor fund allocation, promote accountability, and support the continuous improvement in programs for the benefit of the communities served. In Section E4, OCS collects data on the state administrative funds to ensure transparency and proper allocation and resources. According to Section 675C, B2 of the CSBG Act, states can utilize up to 5% or 55,000 of their CSBG allotment for administrative activities. By gathering this information, OCS monitors the amount states allocate for the fiscal year, enabling them to manage funds effectively and support vital community programs. In Section E7, OCS collects data on the use of remainder or discretionary funds as outlined in Section 675C(b) and 676B(2) of the CSBG Act. This information enables OCS to monitor how states allocate up to 5% of their funding for discretionary purposes after they have distributed the minimum of 90% to eligible entities and used the maximum of 5% for administrative purposes. By tracking this data, OCS gains insight into the various ways states utilize these discretionary funds, which can involve competitive funding opportunities, training and technical assistance activities, or additional administrative expenses, among other uses. In Section E9, OCS collects data on total obligations and expenditures to ensure proper allocation of the community service block grant funds. By reviewing this information, OCS can verify that at least 90% of the funds are distributed to eligible entities. No more than 5% is used for administrative activities, and that no more than 5% of discretionary funds are utilized for discretionary activities. Next slide. Okay, there we go. We're providing a reconciliation toolkit required to complete Section E. The Federal Financial Report, known as the SF-425, and the state accounting systems are the components of the reconciliation toolkit. The data generated by both the Federal Financial Report and the state accounting system should be cross-referenced with the CSBG annual reporting data. Using this reconciliation toolkit allows organizations to ensure accuracy and transparency in their financial reporting process. Using the toolkit makes it easier to identify and rectify any discrepancies or inaccuracies before submitting their annual CSBG annual report, resulting in more efficient fund allocation and utilization management. We do highly recommend that you work with your fiscal staff to assist with the Section E due to the connection between the SF-425 and the state accounting system. I'll now pass it off to my associate Melanie. Thank you.
Thank you, Norris. Now on to Section F, State Training and Technical Assistance. In this section, you're to describe how the state delivered CSBG funded training and technical assistance to eligible entities by topic, start and end date, and a brief narrative description. The type of technical assistance or training and topic are pre-populated from your state plan. For F2, if technical assistance was provided by an organization other than the state, you would also indicate that in this section. This chart here outlines reporting for your TNTA. Please see that regular CSBG reports will include TNTA activities provided by all funding streams to include CARES, while the CARES report should just include TNTA funded solely by CARES dollars. OCS would like to emphasize the importance of training and technical assistance, whether provided directly by the state office or indirectly by a contractor, as it's a critical function of the state CSBG office. As you're aware, training and technical assistance should be made available to all entities in a given state and can be tailored to a particular topic as appropriate. In F.1, training technical assistance plans were revised for clarity. This table was revised for technology to include the start and end date. Next slide. Next slide. Section G, state linkages and communication. This section describes activities that the state supported with CSBG remainder discretionary funds. In this section, items G2, G3A, G3B, G5, and G6 were revised for clarity. State linkages and communications. Looking at G1 and G1A, these relate to linkages and coordinations at the state level to ensure access to services. No changes were made to these items. Item G1 allows states to select multiple options that reflect what linkages and coordination efforts were conducted. Please select all that apply and ensure that responses align with what was outlined in your state plan. Throughout this section, OCS would like to see how states help leverage CSBG funding to better serve individuals, families, and communities in need. In G1A, we ask you to provide a narrative to describe the linkages and coordination at the state level that the state created or maintained to ensure increased access to CSBG services. If you deviated from the state plan, you would also have to include an explanation in narrative form of these any changes. Similarly, in G2, we ask you to describe state linkages and coordination at the local level. This section was revised for clarity. Review and update the actual activities for linkages and coordination at the local level that the state created or maintained during the fiscal year, including an explanation of any changes from the original state plan. Include linkages with governmental and other social services, especially anti-poverty programs, to ensure the effective delivery of coordination of CSBG services to people and to avoid duplication of services. Now looking at G3, eligible entity linkages and coordination. While G1 and G2 focus on state level efforts, the description in G3A should be specific to how states assure linkages and coordinations at the entity level. In G3B, states should also describe if there were service gaps in communities and whether or how coordination across community partners helped to fill these gaps. For G5, coordination among CSBG eligible entities and state community action associations. The state should provide additional information that clearly describes the coordinated efforts between the state action associations and eligible entities. To effectively coordinate and link services, OCS recognizes the importance of communication in the network. OCS would like to see how the CSBG State Office, State Community Action Association, and entities work together to better serve individuals and families. On to G6, feedback to CSBG eligible entities and the State Community Action Association. The state should provide clarifying and/or additional information on how the state provided feedback to eligible entities and/or the state association regarding the state's performance. States can include the method used to deliver feedback, such as work groups, emails, conference calls, as well as any outcomes of providing this feedback. This question allows for CSBG State Office to take and implement a continuous quality improvement approach to activities related to achieving state accountability measures. As a funder of the entities and often of state associations, the CSBG State Office should ensure timely and objective feedback on a range of topics to help the network continue to make progress toward identified goals. I will turn it back over to Norris for Section 8, monitoring corrective action and fiscal controls.
Thank you, Melanie. In Section H of the annual report provides information related to monitoring, audits, and management decisions. This section ensures transparency, accountability, and compliance with regulations or requirements for the involved entities. It covers monitoring schedules, single audit reviews, and single audit management decisions, providing clarity on the processes and steps taken to resolve any identified issues. H1 in Section 8 details the monitoring visits conducted during the reporting year for CSBG eligible entities. The default value may be no review, so make sure to update the type of monitoring if a review was completed during the reporting year. This includes full on-site reviews of newly designated entities, follow-up reviews such as return visits to entities that fail to meet state goals, standards, or requirements, and any other relevant reviews. In case of planned monitoring visits could not take place, a brief explanation should be provided. This helps ensure transparency and accountability in the monitoring and corrective measures taken under the CSBG Act. H6, single audit review, is to record and report the dates when the CSBG eligible entities single audits were received and reviewed during the federal fiscal year in accordance with the CSBG regulations applicable to 45 CFR 75.521. This ensures compliance with federal requirements for grant recipients. Additionally, if there are any audit findings that require a management decision by a state, the date of that decision must also be provided. This allows for effective tracking, monitoring, and resolving of audit-related issues while maintaining transparency and accountability in the grant administration process. H7, the single audit management decision, briefly outlines and describes any CSBG-related management decisions that have been made in accordance with the state procedures or state procedures for CSBG eligible entities single audits. This includes providing the audit finding reference number from the Federal Audit Clearinghouse, along with the description of any required actions and timelines for correction. This ensures transparency and proper documentation of all decisions made during a single audit process, as well as offering a clear path for resolving any identified issues within the specified timeframes.
Thank you, Norris. The last section in Module 1 is Section I, Results-Oriented Management and Accountability System, also known as ROMA. No changes were made in this section, and the section is largely narrative. Item I1 asks you to confirm the performance measurement system that the state and eligible entities use as required by Section 678EA of the CSBG Act, and assurance under Section 676B12 of the Act. I1A should only be answered if the response to I1 was that the state uses ROMA. OCS would like to know whether and how ROMA facilitates enhanced data analysis and evaluation among the states that choose to use this as their performance measurement system. Item 1B should be answered only if ROMA was not selected as the response to I1. If your state does not use ROMA, describe the systems the state used for performance management. Provide an update on any changes in the procedures or to data collection systems that were initiated or completed in the reporting period. For item I2, state ROMA support. Explain how the state supported the eligible entities in using the ROMA system or alternative performance measurement system in promoting continuous improvement. For example, describe any data system improvements, support for needs assessments, support for planning, data analysis, etc. For item 1.3, state review of eligible entity data. The state should provide additional information that clearly describes how it reviews CSBG entities' performance management data as a part of the annual report process. This information should include what steps the state took to ensure the data was submitted were accurate and complete. OCS wants to ensure that states are taking the time to review, analyze, and clean their data prior to final submission to OCS. Having a thorough process for data analysis ensures that the information reported in the report is accurate and representative of the work that the CSBG network conducted throughout the reporting period. You can see Section 676B12 of the Act and IM 152 regarding the annual report for further details on this. I4, state feedback on data collection, analysis, and reporting. States should indicate yes or no to whether they provided written feedback to CSBG eligible entities on their progress towards meeting ROMA goals. If the response is yes, then the state should describe their process for providing timely feedback, If the response is no, then the state should provide clarifying information that describes how they plan to provide more timely feedback in the future. Under state accountability measures 5SII, it is a requirement for states to provide each of their eligible entities with timely feedback on their performance and meeting ROMA goals within 60 calendar days of submitting the annual report. This question allows OCS to assess whether states are able to meet this requirement, and if not, think through what T and TA may be helpful for states going forward. And lastly, item I5, state and eligible entity continuous improvement. ROMA is all about continuous improvement. So please provide 2 to 3 examples that clearly demonstrate what activities the state office and entities conducted to improve or enhance service delivery. When responding, it may be helpful to include information on why a state or entity decided to conduct an activity or service. For example, what data informed these continuous improvement activities? Throughout this section, OCS would like to ensure that improvements to service delivery are driven by data. This question allows OCS to gauge whether and how states are making use of their data to inform such decisions, as well as identify any T and TA needs around data collection and analysis. Next slide. So that ends our review of Module 1, and now we will share resources that should help you throughout the reporting period. Next slide. Regional contacts. Every branch in our division supports each region with a federal team that includes a program specialist, a financial analyst, and a policy data and evaluation specialist. So here, if you locate your region, you can find the contacts assigned to your region. As a reminder, always copy your assigned contacts during communication for prompt responses. And if you're emailing for general technical assistance, please remember to copy CSBG states at acf.hhs.gov. And if you need any assistance with the online data collection system, please copy CSBG data at acf.hhs.gov, and we'll drop those links, those emails in the chat. Next slide. We will be conducting or continuing our webinar series, and our next webinar is tomorrow, November 30th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow's webinar will review modules 2 and 4, and registration is available at the CSBG events calendar page. Eligible entities are also invited to this webinar, so feel free to share this link. And not on the slide, but additional upcoming webinars include our Smart Forms refresher on December 6th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. to receive a refresher on how to complete the CSBG Smart Forms, and the OLDC refresher on December 14th from 3 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time to receive a refresher on how to submit your annual report via OLDC and Grant Solutions. Next slide. Here are a few important links as well. The CSBG homepage is the first link. If you click that link and scroll all the way to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see grant recipients resources and the list. And Nikki, if you click the slides, it may show an example of that in the list. And if you click the plus sign, you will see links to the CSBG events calendar and webinars pages. I've also included the direct links to the CSBG events calendar and webinars here, where you can review the webinars you may have missed or need a refresher. I also recommend bookmarking these pages for quick and easy access while you're completing your reporting. So we'll now open up the floor for questions, and I'll ask all presenters to come back on camera. Let's see.
Thank you, everyone. Nikki, see that we have the questions coming in into the Q&A pod, so I will turn it over to you, and we can start answering them.
Thank you. Please enter your questions if you have any questions in the Q&A pod at the bottom of the screen. As a reminder, we will do a quick poll at the conclusion of this Q&A session, so please stick around. And the first question was, will the links be provided in the chat to be sent out with the recording? And we will post the slides to the CSBG events page and the CSBG webinars page, and the slides have the links to the presentation slides have the links to what was provided today. The next question is a Word doc version of updated module 1 available?
I'll take that one. Thank you for that. I know Karen Quackenbush asked that question. So yes, that document will be released. We're releasing a DCL when OLDC is completely live, and in the attachments we'll include that Word doc that I know has been helpful in the past for states specific to module 1. Just finished that up actually. And then Nikki, I can actually take the next one related to module 1 being open on OLDC. We got this question: is module 1 open on OLDC? Module one for OLDC was pushed into production. There were some technical glitches with the system that is Grant Solutions, and hence the very brief delay. We will announce a DCL along with a notice to the entire network when full OLDC is live, including a DCL that would have that Word document related to module 1, but we anticipate that it'll be within the next day or so. If you have additional questions, please continue putting them in the Q&A pod. If they go in the chat, we have to migrate them over to the Q&A pod. So please look at the bottom of your screen and put them in the Q&A pod, not the regular chat.
Okay, the next question was, there or will there be a 2023 ACSI for eligible entities?
the ACSI happened earlier this year. So was the question whether or not there's going to be another? I think I need a little bit more clarification.
I know that we presented for the states and tribes, and then there's another ACSI for the eligible entities to provide data on the states. They usually run either every year or every other year. I'm not sure if Ronika's on the line to answer that, but we can get that answer up in a moment.
And for that question, if we're unable to answer it now, we will follow up with you offline. I see that the question was asked by a couple folks, and when it came through in the Q&A pod, it came through as anonymous. And Nikki, did you want to move to the next one?
I missed the first 10 to 15 minutes. I thought we were done with CARES and would have no more CARES reporting. Can you clarify?
So the CARES only is specific to those 12 small states and those that operate on a state fiscal year. So they have a few more months left of information to squeeze out. So CARES doesn't apply to everyone, just those in the state fiscal year reporting and or a small state. You're welcome. Yeah.
Section A, lead agency changes. Are you taking the information about lead agency off the most updated state plan fiscal year 2024, fiscal year 2025, or the prior state plan fiscal year 2022, fiscal year 2023?
It's typically the most recent state plan.
And the next ACSI for eligible entities is planned for 2024. Thanks, Catherine. In section A, will you take the lead agency information off the most recent state plan? I think it's the same question as before.
Most recent.
Thanks.
And Nikki, I may have missed it. Did you see the response from the federal team on the ACSI in 2024?
Yes, I just spoke on it, saying that Catherine provided that information that is planned for 2024.
Thank you. And we got the question again about the module 1 document that will be released with the DCL when OLDC is completely into production. So you all will have that as an attachment.
At this moment, I don't see any other questions. Oh, when can we expect the smart forms?
So the smart forms have started to be released as of yesterday. And we do have on read and delivery receipts. Those would be coming from your data and evaluation specialist. In special circumstances, depending on what state you're from, oftentimes what we're finding is some of the IT departments at your state government offices may prohibit you from getting the attachments themselves. But we'll be following up with you in a plain email just in case you haven't gotten them or for some reason they're not coming through. But my team has been working on sending those out since yesterday. And I believe Kayla's on. Kayla, that question looks to be from Tina Darling. So I'm going to ask you to just follow up with Tina directly. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay, since the ACSI for eligible entities is slated for 2024, what information are we placing in module 1 to answer that question? Does anybody want to take that?
Oh, yes. So if you do not have that information to enter, you don't have to put that in there. What we'll continue to do is provide additional updates specific to that item. But if you look at the PDF of the annual report, it does provide guidance on if ACSI doesn't apply or you don't have the information to populate exactly what you should do. And that PDF is included in the DCL when the annual report was issued. The annual report reminder for fiscal year 2023 was issued. We'll drop that link in the chat. And if you go directly to the bottom of the information memorandum, it has a PDF that goes through the guidance of what to do.
And then Catherine also has a response in the chat. You can also use the prior results from 2021. And if you need a copy of these results, please email Ronika Carr to receive those results.
Thank you. Tina says, in the past, I've gotten a Dropbox type link where I can download our smart forms. That works best for Indiana. We have a very strong firewall here.
Thank you, Tina. Because the federal office is issuing these smart forms, we have limitations on what types of websites we're allowed to use. And for those states where we've gotten failures, we are working directly with our office of the Chief Information Officer for an approved site to send those over. So Kayla will follow up directly with you before the end of today.
Okay, at the moment, I don't see any other questions.
Are there any more questions?
And thanks, Catherine, for dropping Renika's email in the chat. That information is also available on the CSBG federal contacts page. Since I don't see any more questions, I'm going to stop the recording and open up the Q&A.
And we do ask that you all stick around, as Nikki mentioned earlier. These poll questions really help the federal